What's been interesting in all of this is the mass psychosis you see now among Republican elected officials, Republican think tanks like the Heritage Foundation flying the American flag.
Adam Kinzinger went all in on roasting those Republican crybabies who can't handle the fact that Trump got convicted. These folks are losing their minds, and Kinzinger is not holding back. He took aim at all of them, sparing no one. But the biggest target of his smackdown was Mike Johnson. Johnson has taken sucking up to Trump to a whole new level, and someone had to bring him back to reality.
This mass psychosis is, from a political perspective, just the raw politics, is very damaging probably to Donald Trump in November, because I don't think most Americans are saying, yeah, this mass psychosis is warranted. But secondarily, the damage it's doing to the justice system, the faith in the justice system, is absolutely...
Kinzinger just laid it out there, calling them out for their hypocrisy and their desperate attempts to defend the indefensible. You could almost hear the collective gasp from the GOP as Kinzinger tore into them. Johnson just needed a reality check. Seriously.
I think the American people are. What happened to President Trump is lawfare. There's no other way to describe it. They went after the Democrat Party and they used the system of justice to go after a political opponent. I think that this will probably guarantee that President Trump is reelected president, and I think their strategy is going to backfire on them.
This guy has been so deep in Trump's pocket these days. He's been parroting every ridiculous claim Trump makes, from election fraud to political witch hunts, and it's just pathetic at this point. Kinzinger made it clear that Johnson's antics are not only embarrassing, but downright dangerous. Kinzinger basically told Johnson to get a grip and stop making a fool of himself. He reminded him, and everyone watching, that there's a difference between supporting a leader and losing all sense of reality.
As a person of faith myself, I'm very disappointed to see a person of faith lie to the American, especially in such a powerful position, lie about this.
And can we talk about Johnson's latest stunt? Speaker Mike Johnson, second in line after the president and the top Republican on the Hill, called this day a shameful day in America's history. The House Republican leader, who just earlier this month was one of Trump's lackeys, and even made his way to Manhattan to show support for Trump in court, even when not even Trump's own family showed up, spent the entire 7 weeks of the trial trying to portray the proceedings as biased, echoing baseless claims made by the former president himself, that the justice system is politicized and all those lies we've heard from Trump a million times. He just keeps repeating them.
That banana republic trial going on, these are the things that you expect in third world countries, not in the United States. That should never happen. That judge should never...
It's like a broken record playing the same tired tune over and over again. But hey, when you're in too deep, it's hard to see the forest for the trees. And Johnson, along with his Republican cronies, seems to have lost sight of reality altogether. It's like they're living in some alternate universe where facts don't matter and truth is whatever they want it to be.
That the people see right through it. I've been all across the country, north, south, east, west. Doesn't matter whether I'm in a blue state or a red state. People are disgusted by this. They see exactly what's happening. Old charges, a taint.
Now, will Trump's guilty verdict sway the election outcome? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Some say it's going to send shockwaves through the political landscape, while others brush it off like yesterday's news. Although some polls have suggested that voters in several key swing states would be less likely to vote for Trump if he were convicted of a crime. However, Brian Hughes, a senior advisor to Trump's campaign, said that after the verdict was announced, their digital fundraising system gained a record number of supporters. According to Johnson, this whole legal circus is just what the doctor ordered for Trump's re-election bid. You see, he's playing the long game here. According to him, the Democrats thought they had Trump cornered, but oh boy, did they underestimate the master of the art of the deal. Instead of delivering a knockout blow, they've inadvertently given Trump a shot of political adrenaline. It's like they handed him the keys to the White House on a silver platter.
But I'm going to tell you what will happen. I predict this will increase turnout on our side. He will win decisively. He will become the next president. He was already, as I said, crushing Joe Biden in the polls. I think as this plays out and people get more and more frustrated about it, I think it will help us, and that huge enthusiasm gap that already existed between the Trump and Biden campaigns.
Johnson seems pretty confident in his stance, like he's got it all figured out. We have no idea how being a convict could actually boost Trump's chances of winning the election. I mean, seriously? But hey, maybe there's something we're missing here. But then there's Kinzinger, who's not having any of it. He's throwing shade left and right, and he's got a point.
There is a single person, despite the Twitter chatter you see, which is what the narrative they're trying to get out. I don't think there's a single person that was committed to Joe Biden that because of these felonies has now said, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump.
The truth is that Trump could still be president. Nothing in the Constitution prevents a convicted felon from running for president or holding office in the White House, although why anyone would vote for a criminal is beyond comprehension, right? The real verdict will be issued on November 5th by the nation, he told reporters, evading shouted questions about why Americans should vote for a criminal. That's all he had to say. So, it seems like the Republicans, led by Johansson, are truly convinced that Trump could somehow pull off a presidential comeback, even though he's got more legal baggage than any other candidates. And yet, somehow, someway, the GOP seems to think he's got a better shot at reclaiming the White House than Biden. Kirzinger got to step in and lay down some hard truths. Somebody's got to burst that bubble of delusion, right?
May please 30% of the kind of the most hardcore Trump base, but the rest of America's going, wow, this is weird. So, I don't think you're going to see massive shifts in the polls as a result.
He's basically saying that not only do the Republicans have about as much chance of convincing a Democrat to vote for Trump post-conviction as a snowball surviving in Death Valley, but on top of that, some die-hard Trump supporters might be feeling a bit conflicted about casting their ballot for a certified criminal. I mean, think about it. You might love the guy, but having a criminal record hanging over your head is a bit too much.
There are people, Republicans particularly, not a ton of them, but some, that are uncomfortable with voting for a convicted felon that can't purchase a weapon, that if he was in the U.S. military would be dishonorably discharged, and is now ineligible had he gone through a security clearance process to get even a basic security clearance because of this felony conviction.
Johnson also boasted about the National Republican Congressional Committee's fundraising numbers, claiming they were the highest since he snagged a gavel back last fall. Riding the wave of outrage over the guilty verdict, Johnson declared that House Republicans had launched a shiny new website, supportdjt.com, where GOP donors could fork over their cash to help defend Trump. Talk about milking the Trump train for all it's worth. I mean, who needs subtlety when you can slap Trump's name on a website and watch the donations flood in faster than you can say, "Make America Great Again"?
In Punchbowl, that the National Republican Congressional Committee, you guys raised $300,000 last night, which eclipses only the day you were elected Speaker, and you raised $175,000. So obviously, angry voters are motivated.
But hey, who can blame them? If there's one thing Republicans know how to do, it's turn controversy into cold, hard cash.
These legal troubles for all they're worth. His campaign claims they raked in a little more than $34 million yesterday in donations. It's $1 million per felony, which had he known that, he probably would have committed more of them.
So, if you've got some spare change burning a hole in your pocket and a soft spot for the former president, head on over to supportdjt.com and show your support. Because nothing says, "I love Trump," like throwing your hard-earned dollars into the political abyss.
Committee siphoning money from President Trump's donors are no better than Judge Merchan's daughter. We're keeping a list, we'll be checking it twice, and we aren't in the spirit of Christmas. The only person who's allowed to cheat Trump supporters out of their lotto ticket money is Donald J. Trump himself. Go out and commit your own felonies if you want.
Kirzinger's bringing the heat with his reaction to the GOP's shady money moves. He's calling them out for pickpocketing their own supporters, squeezing every last dime out of them, just so Trump can keep his head above water. We cannot believe that, but there are still some strange souls out there who are actually willing to throw their hard-earned cash into the Trump pot.
All you have to do is look at what you see on Twitter or Truth Social, and you see that there is a conspiracy mentality in the GOP. Everything from they're out to get us, the deep state. Donald Trump feeds on being a victim. This small man feeds on his victimness and is convinced his base that they're victims too.
Kirzinger's not just calling out the Republicans for their financial acrobatics, he's also shining a light on those mysterious individuals who are still throwing cash at Trump. It's like trying to understand why people voluntarily would ever do that. We honestly wonder sometimes what's going on in their minds.
Me, as a Republican, to see the base, many of them on a fixed income, continue to feed this guy as grift at the cost of their own ability to buy medicine and food. It makes me sad, actually.
Just when you thought things couldn't get any crazier, Mike Johnson dropped a bombshell that left everyone's jaws on the floor. Speaker Mike Johnson called on the Supreme Court to intervene in former President Donald J. Trump's appeal of his conviction for a crime, urging them to overturn the decision and grant him criminal immunity. Yeah, you heard that right. He basically wants the highest court to clean for Trump. Now, I don't know about you, but asking the Supreme Court to bail out a convicted criminal seems like a bit too much.
I believe the Supreme Court should step in. Obviously, this is totally unprecedented, and it's dangerous to our system. I mean, we've all discussed this before, and you all talk about it all the time. This is diminishing the American people's faith in our system of justice itself. And to maintain a republic, you have to have that. People have to believe that justice is fair, that there's equal justice under law. They don't see that.
But hey, why stop there? Maybe next they'll ask the Supreme Court to declare Trump the supreme ruler of the universe while they're at it. Because, why not? It's not like we're living in a democracy or anything.
Clearly, we have to set a standard here. There's a really important principle of immunity for a commander-in-chief. I mean, that's always been part of our legal tradition, and it makes good sense. You can't have somebody sitting in the Oval Office worried about some rogue prosecutor somewhere, some Soros-funded DA or some lawyer that's going to come after them for their decisions. And so that principle needs to be...
In his Fox speech, Johnson boldly declared that he's personally acquainted with some Supreme Court justices and believes they share his view that Trump has fallen victim to unfair, politically motivated prosecution. He's convinced they'll swoop in like legal superheroes to vindicate Trump and grant him immunity. Kirzinger wasn't about to nod along with Johnson's spiel. He had some serious beef with what Johnson was spouting. He wasn't buying into the idea that running to the Supreme Court buddies was going to solve this mess.
Speaker also said that the Supreme Court should intervene. Congressman, what do you think of the Speaker's comments?
Look, you can't just, I don't think you can just take it right to the U.S. Supreme.
In the sentencing for his crime, Trump could face up to 4 years behind bars, but he might never set foot inside a prison cell. After the verdict is delivered, he could receive a suspended sentence, and he's sure to appeal the ruling, which means years could pass before the case is finally resolved. But the question whenever Trump is going to prison is still veiled. Despite some experts saying Trump probably won't end up in prison, we're not so skeptical. Judge Merchan seemed to despise Trump so much over those 7 weeks that we wouldn't be surprised if he tried to send him to jail.
Think that the former president should face jail time?
Look, that's a tough one. I'll leave that one up to how they sentence. He certainly hasn't shown any remorse, which you would expect when somebody's going up for sentencing, to show some version of remorse or to at least be quiet in the press. He's not doing that. He's continuing to attack.
Kirzinger's onto something here. Even though folks usually don't end up behind bars for these kinds of shenanigans, maybe it's worth taking a second look at whether Trump should be serving some time. I mean, the dude's got a laundry list of legal woes. Attacking people left and right, thumbing his nose at court orders, breaking gag orders, insulting judges. The list goes on and on. Trump's behavior during the whole process wasn't exactly a shining example of good citizenship. If anything, it was more like a masterclass in how not to act when you're under the legal microscope. So, maybe it's time to stop tiptoeing around the issue and start laying down the law. No pun intended. Trump's antics shouldn't be treated with kid gloves. If anything, they deserve a swift kick in the pants.
Trump in jail would have a serious implication for this country, but we can't do justice on the basis of somebody just announced they're running for president or, a special class of people that are somehow exempt from justice. That's everything that we should be fighting against.
So, props to Kirzinger for speaking up and shining a light on the elephant in the room. It's about time someone called out the absurdity of it all and demanded some accountability.
Trump is not a true leader. He doesn't inspire.
And just when you thought Kirzinger couldn't drop any more truth bombs, he goes ahead and delivers a speech that's like music to our ears. He's painting a picture of a future where America doesn't tumble down the rabbit hole to elect Trump again. He's saying, hey folks, let's not get too worked up over this orange guy. In a few years, we'll all be scratching our heads wondering why we even gave him the time of day. Let's move on like it was just a bad dream, and keep our eyes on the horizon.
In 10 years, I'd almost put my hand on the Bible, except I can't truly predict the future. In 10 years, there's not going to be a single person in this country that will ever admit they supported Donald Trump, I believe, because we are going to reject this. And Donald Trump...
What do you think about that? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed our content, click here to see the previous episode. See you soon. Thanks for watching.